You think you bought a $30,000 car, but in reality, you may have just signed up for a $90,000 liability. And the worst part? Most people will never notice it, because the dealership doesn't show you the real number. Your friends don't talk about the real number, and your brain doesn't want to think about the real number. It only sees the shiny paint, the touchscreen, the leather seats, and one comfortable sentence. It's only a few $100s a month.
But that sentence is exactly where the trap begins. Because the real cost of a car is not the sticker price, it is not the monthly payment, and it is definitely not the number the salesperson circles on the paper to make you feel safe. The real cost includes interest, insurance, fuel, maintenance, depreciation, and the most invisible cost of all, the money you could have invested instead.
That is where the $60,000 mistake hides. Not inside the engine, not inside the contract, inside the opportunity you gave away. Today, we're going to break down why your car can quietly cost double, how the monthly payment tricks millions of people, and how to buy a car without letting it sabotage your financial future.
And before we start, remember, this is not about shaming people for needing transportation. Cars are useful. Cars are necessary for many families. But buying transportation is one thing. Financing your ego for 7 years is something completely different.
So let's start with the trap most people fall into first, the monthly payment illusion.
Walk into a dealership and pay attention to the first question. They rarely ask, what total price do you want to pay? They ask, what monthly payment are you comfortable with? That sounds helpful, but financially, it is dangerous. Because once the conversation becomes monthly payment, the total cost disappears.
Exactly. A $30,000 car can become a $36,000 car. A $40,000 car can become a $52,000 car. And somehow, nobody panics because the payment still looks manageable. That's the genius of the trap. You don't feel the total damage. You feel one small monthly slice.
And the dealership knows this. They know most people do not walk in saying, I want to minimize total cost of ownership. People walk in saying, I want something nice, safe, reliable, and I don't want the payment to hurt too much. So the salesperson stretches the loan. Instead of 48 months, they show you 60 months, then 72 months, then 84 months. 7 years.
7 years. That is longer than many people keep their jobs, longer than some relationships, longer than some people live in the same apartment. But people casually sign a 7-year car loan because the monthly payment feels lower. And recent data shows this is becoming normal. Experian reported that nearly 30% of new vehicle loans in late 2025 were between 73 and 84 months. That means millions of buyers are not really buying cars, they're buying long-term debt with wheels.
And here's what makes it worse. The longer the loan, the slower you build equity, the more interest you pay, and the greater the chance you become upside down. Upside down means you owe more than the car is worth. So now you're not driving an asset, you're driving negative equity.
Let's make this simple. Imagine you finance a $30,000 car for 84 months at 7%. The payment is around $453 per month. Over 7 years, that becomes close to $38,000 total. That means nearly $8,000 in interest, and that's before insurance, before fuel, before maintenance, before registration, before repairs, before depreciation.
And this is why the monthly payment is so powerful. It makes an expensive decision feel affordable. It turns a huge financial commitment into a small emotional permission slip. You're not thinking, I'm signing away tens of thousands of dollars. You're thinking, can I handle this payment?
But can I handle it is not the same as is this smart? A person can handle a lot of bad financial decisions. They can handle credit card minimum payments. They can handle a bigger apartment. They can handle a car payment. But being able to survive a payment does not mean the payment is helping you build wealth. Sometimes it just means you're strong enough to carry a bad decision.
And that is the part most people do not want to hear. A car payment can feel normal, but normal is not always smart. Normal people are broke. Normal people are stressed. Normal people are financing things that make them look successful, while their bank account quietly stays trapped.
Now, let's break down the real cost. Let's use a realistic example. You buy a new car for $30,000. You finance it over a long term. You pay interest, you pay insurance, you pay fuel, you pay maintenance, and after a few years, you realize the $30,000 car was never really $30,000.
First, the loan. If you borrow $30,000 at 7% over 84 months, your payment is about $453 per month. Over 7 years, that becomes almost $38,000 total. So the first hidden cost is interest, around $8,000. That is money you paid just for the privilege of buying the car before you had the cash.
And here's what people miss. Interest doesn't make the car better. It doesn't make the engine last longer. It doesn't improve safety. It doesn't increase resale value. It's just the cost of time. The lender gets paid because you wanted the car now.
Next, insurance. Newer cars often cost more to insure because they're more expensive to replace, repair, and protect with full coverage. If insurance is $150 to $200 per month, that can easily be $9,000 to $12,000 over 5 years. And again, people don't mentally attach that to the purchase price. They treat it like a separate bill. But money doesn't care what category you put it in. Money only knows it left your account.
Then fuel, maybe $150 per month. That's $1,800 per year. Over 5 years, $9,000. And if you bought a bigger SUV or truck because it felt safer or looked better, that number can be much higher.
Then maintenance, tires, repairs, registration, taxes, fees. AAA estimated that in 2025, the average cost to own and operate a new vehicle was about $11,577 per year, or roughly $965 per month. That number is shocking because it includes more than the payment. It includes the full ownership reality, and that's what most people ignore.
So now ask yourself, if the average new vehicle costs almost $965 per month to own and operate, how many people are buying cars based only on a $500 or $600 payment? That's like judging the cost of a house only by the mortgage and ignoring taxes, insurance, repairs, utilities, and maintenance.
Exactly. The car payment is not the car cost. The car payment is just the entrance fee. The full ownership cost is the real game, and most people are playing that game blindfolded.
Now let's talk about the most brutal cost, depreciation. This is the cost that doesn't send you a bill, no email, no notification, no red warning sign. Your car just quietly loses value while sitting in your driveway.
And that's why depreciation is so dangerous. Because if insurance goes up, you feel it. If fuel gets expensive, you feel it. If repairs happen, you feel it. But depreciation, you don't feel it until you try to sell the car. Then suddenly reality appears.
You bought the car for $30,000. A few years later, the market says, we'll give you $18,000. And you think, wait, where did $12,000 go? It went into time, mileage, market value, and the fact that new cars stop being new the moment someone else owns them.
Kelly B. Book notes that new cars can lose 20% or more in the first year, and up to 60% over 5 years, depending on the vehicle. That means some people are not just paying for a car, they're paying for the privilege of absorbing the steepest depreciation curve.
Let's say your $30,000 car loses 20% in the first year. That's $6,000 gone in 1 year. That's $500 per month in lost value, and nobody mailed you an invoice.
Imagine buying a couch for $3,000, and 1 year later it's worth $2,400. You'd notice. Imagine buying a phone for $1,200 and it drops $240 immediately. You'd complain. But a car loses thousands, and people say, well, that's just how cars work. Yes, that is how cars work, which is exactly why you should not pretend they're wealth-building assets. For most people, a car is a tool, a useful tool, a necessary tool, but still a depreciating tool.
And here's the most painful part. The emotional value goes up when you buy the car, but the financial value goes down. You feel richer, your net worth may be falling. You feel upgraded, your balance sheet may be weaker. You feel like you made progress, but financially, you may have just moved backward.
That's why cars are so dangerous for middle-class wealth. They create the appearance of success while quietly draining the money that could have built real freedom.
Now, we reach the part most people never calculate: opportunity cost. This is not what the car costs you today. It is what the car prevents you from becoming tomorrow.
Let's compare two people. Person A buys a reliable used car. Not flashy, not brand new, not impressive at a red light, but reliable. Their total transportation cost is controlled.
Person B buys the new car, the nice one, the one with the screen, the one that makes them feel successful. The difference between their choices is $500 per month, maybe from a bigger payment, maybe higher insurance, maybe higher depreciation, maybe all of it combined.
Now, here's the question nobody at the dealership wants you to ask. What happens if that $500 difference is invested instead? At a 7% annual return over 10 years, that becomes about $86,500. That is not a small number. That is not coffee money. That is a down payment. That is emergency freedom. That is investment capital. That is the difference between "I hope I'll be okay" and "I have options."
And even if we use a more conservative difference, say $350 per month, at 7% for 10 years, that still becomes about $60,500. That is the $60,000 mistake. Not because the car salesman stole it, not because the bank forced you, but because your future money was redirected into present comfort.
Now, here's where people get defensive. They say, "But I like my car." That's fine. You're allowed to like your car, but liking something does not make it financially intelligent. You can like expensive mistakes, you can enjoy them, you can even take great pictures with them, but the math still counts.
This is the uncomfortable truth. A car can be affordable monthly and still be devastating long-term. It can fit your budget, but still delay your wealth. It can make you look successful while quietly keeping you dependent on your paycheck.
And that is the trap. The car does not feel like a financial emergency. It feels normal, respectable, adult. You need transportation. You deserve something nice. You work hard. And all of that may be true. But the question is not, do I deserve it? The question is, what does this decision cost future me?
Because future you pays for today's emotional decisions. Future you pays when investments are smaller. Future you pays when savings are weaker. Future you pays when an emergency happens and there is no cushion. Future you pays when retirement feels impossible. And sometimes, future you pays because present you wanted heated seats and a bigger badge on the grill.
That may sound harsh, but personal finance becomes clearer when we stop lying to ourselves. Most people don't stay broke because of one giant disaster. They stay broke because of repeated normal decisions. A car that is a little too expensive, a house that is a little too big, a phone upgrade that is a little too frequent, a vacation that goes on the credit card. Nothing looks catastrophic alone, but together they build a financial prison.
So what should you do? Never buy a car? Never enjoy life? Drive a 1997 car forever? No, that's not the message. The message is buy transportation like an investor, not like a consumer trying to impress strangers.
Here's the Daniel and Sophia system. Rule number 1, use the 20-4-10 rule. Put at least 20% down. finance for no more than 4 years, and keep total transportation costs under 10% of your gross monthly income. Not just the payment, total transportation costs, payment, insurance, fuel, maintenance, everything.
So, if you earn $6,000 per month before taxes, 10% is $600. That means your car payment, insurance, gas, maintenance, and other transportation costs should ideally stay around that number. If the payment alone is $600, you're probably not following the rule. You're just pretending the other costs do not exist.
Rule number 2, consider buying a car that is about 3 years old. Why 3 years? Because someone else already absorbed a big part of the depreciation. The car can still be modern, still reliable, still safe, but you avoid paying the maximum brand new tax.
And let's be honest, for most people, the new car smell is not worth tens of thousands of dollars. You can buy an air freshener for $5. You do not need to finance depreciation for 7 years.
Rule number 3, get financing before walking into the dealership. Talk to your bank, talk to a credit union, compare offers, know your rate, know your maximum price, know your walkaway number. Because if you enter the dealership without a plan, you're not negotiating, you're being processed.
Rule number 4, negotiate the price, not the payment. If the salesperson says, "What monthly payment do you want?" you say, "I want to talk about the out-the-door price." Out the door means the full cost, vehicle price, taxes, fees, add-ons, everything. Because a low payment can hide a bad deal, a longer term, a higher interest rate, or expensive add-ons you didn't need.
Rule number 5, before buying, calculate the opportunity cost. Ask, what is the difference between this car and a reliable alternative? If the difference is $300, $400, or $500, run the investment math. Not because you must invest every dollar, but because you deserve to know what you're trading away.
This is the mindset shift. Poor financial decisions usually ask, "Can I afford the payment?" Better financial decisions ask, "What does this do to my net worth?" That one question can change your entire life.
So, the next time someone says it's only $500 a month, remember that sentence can be expensive, very expensive, because the real cost is not just the payment. It's the interest, the insurance, the fuel, the repairs, the depreciation, and the wealth you never built because your money was trapped in a car.
A car can take you to work, but the wrong car can keep you working longer than necessary. That's the difference. The goal is not to look rich in traffic. The goal is to actually become financially free.
So now we want to hear from you. What was your worst financial mistake with a car? Buying new? Financing too long? Rolling debt into another loan? Leasing something you couldn't really afford? Drop your story in the comments. Someone else might learn from it.
And if you never want to leave another $60,000 on the table, subscribe to Daniel and Sophia, Money Explained. Because here, we don't just talk about money, we break down the hidden systems behind it.
Your future self is watching. Don't disappoint them. See you in the next video.